Welcome to another posting of this Mark II Jaguar wide-body two-door coupe, which I'm building. It's been a time since I've done a video on this because I've not really been doing anything because everything's been on the Land Rover. I've been saying that I've been trying to get the manifold flanges made, which I have. I've still not got them yet, but I was told it was a 2-week turnaround, so I'm expecting a reply this coming week saying that they're done and that they're in post. Anyway, but I have been on with the exhaust, so we'll go over there and we'll have a look. But generally what I've been doing is I've been making the main runner pipes from the flanges, which are going to obviously run down to a set of collectors underneath the car. I think, off the top of my head, because I forgot to bring my book with my equation for the runner length in relation to the size of this engine and the camshafts and the valves that's in it. I think it's roughly about 2.75 to 3 foot long is each runner length. It's quite a lot to cram in underneath there, is that length, but apparently that's the length which the engine will perform its best with the set. It's a standard setup. I've not changed anything. The only thing I've done is I've cleaned it up. I've port matched the manifold to the head. I've cleaned the port runners up in the induction and the exhaust. But other than that, I've not opened them up or anything. I've cleaned the valves. I've not even done a 3-angle valve job on it. I've kept it standard, but I'm trying to utilise the engine of what I have there to its best, and so that's this exhaust runner length is to take into consideration this engine itself. So yeah, so like I said, so I think it's 2.75, 3 foot long is the runner length pipes, but that's what I've done. I've taken a picture of, it's quite cramped because I moved the engine back 7 inches to try and do a better weight distribution of the car. Even though the engine's a bit lighter than the XK units, I still wanted to take a lot of the weight, if I could, off the front axle and just try and move it further back. So 7 inches might not sound like a lot, but that's a lot of weight which I've taken from the front axle. I've taken a picture to show you the gap I have between the footwell and the exhaust, because all the firewall had to move back. And you'll be able to see that in some videos what I've done in the past as I've been building this car, and I've explained all this before for those who's been watching, so it'll be nothing new. But anyway, let's go over to the bench and I'll show you what I've been doing. I'm going to run you through one of the manifold runner pipes that I make, because obviously it goes from an oval shape to a round shape, and it has to be a nice fair transition from oval to round. So I'm going to show you how I do that, and hopefully, cross fingers, it'll come out all right, and it'll be somewhat instructive. But it's not about this is how you do it. This is how I've done it and how I've found to be the best for me. But we'll all find his own answers, I suppose. But there's information there if you want to use it. Knock yourself out with it, because, like I say, that's one of the things I like about YouTube is you can go on, you can find stuff, and it can be inspirational and informative. So anyway, let's go over there and let's have a look and see what we've got going on. Right, so Jaguar exhaust. This is where I'm at so far with this. I have made 5 of the main runners that come from the flanges. I haven't got the flanges yet. I'm still waiting on those. I'm hoping this coming week I should have them. But this is what I've done so far on the main runner that comes out from the flange. I've done, like I said, I've done 5. I've made these. So let me just show you what it's supposed to fit. This is off an AJ16 engine. Mine's an AJ6 engine, but the port sizes are the same. It's just that the bolt holes for the manifold on the AJ6 engine, they only have half that number of bolts, and they changed it so putting all these, anyway, that's irrelevant. What's relevant is this shape here, and obviously I've had to make these match this port. Now I've seen a couple of people on YouTube and some pictures and things of where people have gone about making this shape, and this is the way I went about doing this. So first I made this form. So if you can see that, it's out of 12, I think it's 12 mil steel, mild steel, and I made it to match the port, as you can see there. And this is to go in there, like so. Hope you can see that. Now, how did I turn that into that? And this is what I'm going to show. This is not a how to do this. This is the way I did it. And I suppose everybody's got their own ways and the reasons why they choose it. This is my way. I found it, for me, was the best way to get a nice fair curve and flow into the actual pipe and the angle I wanted it at. So what I'll do is, I'll run this through you, and we'll do it piece by piece, and hopefully you'll get an idea as to how I do it. So firstly, I had to determine, so let me just show you. This is number 6 runner. So say that's the engine. This obviously is the horizontal line. And I went over to the car and I looked at, with my bit of pipe, roughly what the angle needed to be to clear all the bits and pieces come from the back of the engine. Now, I've moved the engine 7 inches back and had to move the firewall to accommodate the movement of the engine. If you look in one of my other videos somewhere along the line, I talk about why I did that, but it's basically I had to balance and all the rest of the stuff. But anyway, I set the angle in the car, marked on the top, so I knew that when I set it, that line there would be where my horizontal perpendicular line would be. So if it's sat there, I can set that to the right position. And so that's what I did with number 5. Then number 4, sorry, I'm going all wrong here, sorry. Number 6, sorry, this is number 6, I've got it the wrong way around. So, number 6, like that. Number 5, like that. And number 4, like that. Hope you can see that. And then I went to the front, so that's my number 1, which will be there, number 2, there, and number 3, sorry, is going to come pretty much nearly straight down, just as number 4 does. So that's number 4. So number 3 is going to be pretty much like that. So that's how I'm going to set it. So, how did I get that from that? And this is what we're going to do. So one of the things I need to mention before I start cutting this up is they can't all run side by side like that, because it is somewhat cramped in the engine bay, especially at the back of the engine. So number 5 and number 4. So 5 comes from the back of the engine like that, and then number 4 has to come over it like that. So I have to set, obviously this face here, I have to set it at different lengths. Hope you can see. Can you see the different lengths? So I'm going to have to do the same. Now this is, I'm guessing here. It's somewhat of an educated guess because I've put them under the car. But this is my initial part. So it has to go over. So that's what this is going to have to do. So I made this short, so number 2 is short, and number 3 is going to come over it. So that is roughly going to be the angle. So one of the first things I need to do is put these together and then put a line on roughly where I'm going to put my cut to match this plain line here. So I've set my pipe there roughly on the angle it's going to be. I'll mark the top. Don't know if you'll be able to see that, pen's running out, but there, I've marked the top. And I'm also going to mark this plain line here. And I'll overset it a little bit so I've got some to cut back. If you know, to set it a bit. So if I cut there, I roughly know that I'm somewhat like okay, and I've got some manoeuvre to get these things in and out. So I've got two lines there, one that way and one perpendicular to it. Now I'm going to cut this obviously straight off, because this bit here I don't know exactly what's going to do with the pipe work. All I'm concerned about is making this piece that comes from the manifold, and so this is what I'm going to set. So it'll be pretty much like number 4. Well, this one, yeah. So I'll cut this off and then we'll get on to the next bit. So what I've done is I've set, because obviously it's a 90-degree bend, I've set this face here vertical, so obviously that's horizontal, and I'm keeping that for the time being. Like I say, it's only a primary statement is this. It'll be refined when I put it to the car and I finish the actual shaping off. But this is just a straight down cut. So there. So number 2 and number 3. And so roughly I've got a bit of a gap between those two, and I've got my bit of pipe. Not perfectly square, but it doesn't matter, because one of the things is as I open it up, it won't hold this flat face perfectly right anyway. Right, so I've cut it off. I've got this line on the top here which sets that angle there. So wherever that line is on top, that's where my angle is, and that's where I've set it to there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this line down here, and that is for where I'm going to cut it and open it up. So I'm going to open up this bit of round tube, and then I'm going to make an infill. But first we'll cut it, so I'll mark that there, and then I've marked that on the face there, and then I'm going to mark directly underneath it, so I've got an equal statement. So if I were to put a straight edge on, just excuse me a sec. That's my angle, roughly, and that should be equal. So anyway, so I'm going to cut down about there, which will be, because this is all guesswork, 70 millimeters. So I'm going to cut down about 70 millimeters. On these here, it was determined obviously how far I was away from the bend or on the bend as to how much I would cut in, but it was the same thing. I just set the angle and then I just drew a nice curve trying to follow the center of the pipe, and then I will cut it with a grinder with a cutting disc, and I did that both sides. So it's no different irrespective, it's just I'm further away from the bend here than I was on these, like this one. This was right on the bend because this one is really tight, and same with the number 6. it's really tight because of the foot well in the car. So anyway, so I'll cut these two. I'll mark this, I'll cut it, and then we'll split it open. Right, so straight down. Cross my fingers I get this one right. I could cut it with a grinder, but I'm being lazy and it is noisy. So actually this might be noisy as well. Anyway. Sorry for the screeching for those who've got sensitive ears. So, that's not bad. Not bad. Let's get rid of that. So now I've got that cut there, which is pretty good. It doesn't have to be exact. The main thing is that we've got the length and we can splay it open. So let me just check the length there, that I'm happy with it. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Right, so now what I'm going to do to open it up, just got this bit of steam pipe, thick wall, which goes inside. I'm using this just to splay it open. It is somewhat of a bit of a physical work, is this, and I'm sure people could find different ways to do it, and there is a bit of messing around, especially with the tight bends. These were really quite awkward to pull out, but it's not impossible. As you can see, I have done them, so it's a case of just trying to splay it. Like that, and we'll get in there. So when I've done this, because I don't think you want to see me blustering away trying to get this open, but all I'll do is I'll keep working this until I've got it open and I can get that in. Once I get that in, then I can set the form shape on this with this, and that horizontal plane there will be how I set this. So that'll go in like that, if you can see, and then I can form it around that, and then I'll weld it to this, and then I can do the rest of the work. So when I finish this, we'll get back. Right. This is harder than flipping last lot I did. Don't know why. Thought this would have been easier. Right, so I eventually did it. Eventually. So obviously I got that in the vise, that in there, and I had to get my little Broadley bar in and get it into pry out. It was a lot stiffer than usual, and yes, some people say, why do you use oxyacetylene or something to warm up? Don't have any. It's expensive really, and I don't really use it that much, or would use it that much. So I managed to manhandle it, and we got it apart. So you can see that goes in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tack in there, set that square there, and then I'll tack there, and I'll set this as well. So this horizontal plane here, obviously set horizontal, and I'll set this so I've got the angle I require. And once I've tacked that in with my angle that I require, I can then form the shape around this former. So I'll do that now, and then when I've done it, I'll show you my next bit. So I've got it set in, so you can see I've got my horizontal plane there. You can see the angle of the pipe coming down. So that's roughly where I want it. I suppose you're saying, well, surely you need to make sure it's exact. What I'll do is when I get the manifold flanges and I start to set them in the car, I'll put this up to the actual aperture, the actual piece there, and I'll see where this is sat in relation. So if it needs moving, what I'll have to do is I'll have to take it to work where I've got some oxyacetylene, and I will set this back in, tack it in like I have here, and then I'll get some oxyacetylene around the pipe, and I'll just twist it once I've got it cherry red to finish that. It's a bit of messing around, but like I say, there's no way I can afford oxyacetylene. The bottles, and it's ridiculous is the cost of this stuff nowadays. Anyway, so like I say, it's roughly where I require it, is that. So now I'm going to actually form it round, so a bit of noise. I think my son will be able to bring down the noise when he does the editing, so I'll do that and then we'll reset it. So if you just bear with me, find my hammer. Here we are. So I'm just going to end of my vise, and I'm just going to carefully work this round my form. Doesn't need a lot of bashing. It's only, I think this pipe is 1.6 mil wall, mild steel pipe, so it gives relatively easily. So what I'm doing, like what I've done now, is I've set that. Obviously I'm going to crimp it a bit more in when I finish setting it, but I've pretty much got it running nice around there. Now what I'm going to do is, all this here, the bumping on the top where I've forced it and it's bent and everything, I'm going to bring that together now, whether it be up or down, I can work that. So the bottom, that's quite good, but it still needs to come down. So same thing, I'm just going to work it with the hammer. And I'll just keep looking at it until I'm happy that the line looks good. Like I say, you don't need big whacks to get it to move. And if you give it big whacks, it just means you've got a lot of work to try and straighten it out. So that's pretty good underneath. Let's get this top done. I have seen people, or I should say pictures, where they actually make this form, the taper and the oval here into the round, out of, they get a piece of paper and they draw the shape out if it's folded out, and then cut it out and then form it around and everything. But that seems to be a lot of work for me. I think doing it this way is clean and you get a nice fair sweep. As long as your lengths, you've got your lengths, if your engine bay can accommodate some length, you can get some nice clean sweeps. And like I say, that's okay. I won't knock that at all. If anything, if somebody to give me that and I couldn't see any welding or anything, I think that was hydroformed. So like I said, they turn out well. They turn out well. And like I say, the welding you have to do, the pin fill, it's not difficult. I do MIG it in just for speed, and like I say, I get the grinder on it and finish it off. So that's roughly, I hope you can see that. That's actually, it's not that bad actually, that's quite good. So I just give it a little squeeze in the vise just to bring those together. Yeah, that's quite good, is that? So, there, and I've got my angle with my horizontal plane. I'm quite happy with that. So now what I'm going to do, obviously got to make a piece, an infill for there and an infill for there. So what I do is I get a piece of cardboard where I've hidden my cardboard. I'm not sure where I've put it now. I did have a piece floating around somewhere and now it's disappeared. Just bear with me 1 second. Right, so I've got a piece of cardboard. It's actually some dark chocolate when I go running. Obviously I don't eat the cardboard, just the chocolate. But anyway, so I'm going to make a template for this here. So I'll just put this edge onto one of my edges. Then I'm just going to run my dirty finger on the edge to find it. Just a little bit of pushing and that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I've got a line there with all the dirt and everything and the fold you can see. So I'm now going to cut that out, check it, and then I'll make a steel piece to infill to that, and then it would just a case of filing the piece so they fit nicely. And then it'll be a weld up and down with full penetration to make sure, obviously when I grind it flush, it doesn't crack or fall out. And obviously it needs to be structural, isn't it? So just chop this piece here. And voila. Hope you can see that. So I'll do the same for the bottom, and then I'll just mark this off, nothing special. I'll just mark that piece off onto a bit of plate I have. So a bit of old box section. I'll use anything at hand. It's the right thickness, right material. So I'll just put it on there, mark around it with the pen. I'll just mark around with a pen and I'll cut it out. Dead simple. So when I've cut it out and I've fettled it all up, I'll show you the next bit. So I've cut them out, I've fitted them in. As you'll see, I've left a little gap at the ends, I'm hoping. That's so that, well, the material would there as the point would just disappear anyway. But I want to get a good penetration where I start there. And I can get the heat into it then as I run up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spot it, make sure it's all as I want it. Once I've done that, then I'll weld it in. I'll do the spots and I'll leave the camera rolling, but for the welding there's no point because you will not see anything. I'm just blinding light and I don't have a filter for the lens for this, so I'll just spot it and then you can see that, and then I'll weld it up and I'll show you when I finish welding it. So I'm going to MIG it in. Got the plant set on quite high. I don't know what amps it is because it goes in numbers, does this machine, even though it's an old snap-on thing. Good machine, but it's just numbers and feed rates. One thing I would tell people, we MIG welding, always snip your end before you weld. It lights up way better from cold with this clean snipped end, and if you can cut it on an angle. I'm just using pliers because they're handy, but I normally use a pair of side cutters and I'll cut it at an angle. So when I light up, it'll light up really easily because you've got a really thin pointy edge on the wire, and so it lights up really easy when it's like that, and then you get a better start on your weld. If it's already glowing hot and you're just spotting on off, then you don't have to do that. You can just keep it rolling. But from a cold start, snip it. But if you can weld, then I'm preaching to the learned already. So I'm just going to spot it on and I'll just put spots up and around it and make sure it's right. See, I don't know if you'll be able to see, you won't be able to see that ball. There's a ball on there. Just take that off. So that's just down a little bit. Get a smaller screwdriver. In fact, I've got a scriber here. The other thing about leaving the end is I can lift this up a little bit. So I don't know if you heard that. That just sprang up a little bit, just as I want it. So, eyes. That's okay. Now it's just slightly up at that end, so I'll just carefully knock that in, like so, and there, I've got it. So that's that done. Now for this side, exactly the same thing. Snip your end. That's good. That's good. There we go. So, hope you can see that. Just some simple little spots with the power running quite high. As long as you've got your materials touching each other, so they're nicely butt up, you can put the power on quite high and just blast the spot straight on. What I'm going to do now is I'll just grind those flush with the flappy pad on my grinder, and then I'm going to chalk it in, and then so I can see it, especially with my eyes getting bad. But anyway, I'll chalk it in so I know where I'm going to weld, and then I'll just do a continuous weld. I will drop the power down a notch, and I should just get the penetration I require. So I'll fettle those down, and then I'll turn it off because you'll not see anything other than bright light. But I'll fettle these down, and then we're on the next bit. I'm sure somebody's going to say, safety goggles. Yeah, you're right, I should. But I can get lazy at times. So, there we go. I'll just chalk it in, bit of chalk. I should have some French chalk. Don't know if you'll be able to see that. So just French chalk that in. That should light up when I'm welding. So same at this side, I'll just chalk that in. So I'll weld those in, and then I'll show you them after I've welded them in, and hopefully I'll get the penetration I require to get all the way through. So that's the next bit. Right, so I've welded it up. I've taken some pictures and I'll put them in corner so you can see them closer if you can't see this, but that's welded to show you what I've done, and that's when I've felted it down with the grinder sander. So I'll quickly show you roughly what I do here with the grinder so you can see, and I'll explain what I'll take the heavy off first, and obviously try to be careful that I don't touch this, and then I'll use the end of the grinder, the disc, to carefully run up and down there to take this down to a level, and then I'll just polish it. You'll see me as I go on. Obviously it will be noisy, so my son will deal with the sound hopefully. So this time I do have the ear defenders because it's a lot of noise. And I have the grinding screen. Right, so here we go. So, still needs a little bit more doing just to finish off this, but I can't get to it properly with it so you can see it on the camera. So basically I've got that. What I'll do is I'll go over with a file just to see if there's any high spots or low spots. Obviously I'm not trying to get it totally perfect like a panel on a vehicle, but that is pretty good actually. I did the same with that. Like I say, I've hardly touched the actual original material. Hopefully what you saw is I brought the two pieces down and then just feathered it all in. And that's basically how I go about making the main pipe from an oval to a round on a bend. And it doesn't change, the principle's the same. If I had to come, like I said, on this part here, and it was my plane was running across there with this pipe bend here, I just draw a line from where the edge is around, so it's a nice fair curve, and then I'll just get the grinder and I cut it and I do exactly, splay it open, get my cardboard template made from my gap that's in there once I fastened that in, and then I just weld it in and grind it all down, and so I end up with that. Right, so I've got those done. So this was my last one, obviously, as you've seen from the others that I'd done. So this is number 3. So I'll finish that off. I'll show you what else I've done. I've also made the collectors, or started making them. Now I can't exactly say where these are going exactly because obviously I need to start getting my front and my rear pipes in. So I can set these in position under the car. So I made that, and that's obviously the same, that's my second collector. And I made this out of, let me just measure it so I'm right, 45mm OD, and this wall thickness is, I think this is 1.5 as well. I think this is 1.5. 45mm OD mild steel tube, and the way I did this was I drew down the diameter of this pipe, which is my bigger pipe, which is my 50mm OD, same wall thickness, which is my main runner. So I've got my two runners that run down, that's going to run down underneath the car to the back, which will collect into the silencer at the back, which I made, which I do have a video of that, I think, as well. I should have a video of that. If I've not, but I'm sure I have. But that's. I might put links in if I can dig them. If I can be bothered to dig them out, I'll put links in. But I'm sure I did do a video of making the exhaust at the back at some point in time. But anyway, so what I did to make these was, I don't know if you'll be able to see. I will put another picture. But this circle here, I divided it into 3 parts, 3 equal parts. And then what I did was, this angle here, I set that as to what I thought was an acceptable angle for the gases to come into this one point here. Once I got that angle set, I cut that angle onto each pipe, and then I put the pipe onto my circle, and where the points matched there, I marked onto the pipe. That was my first one, what I did. And I marked it onto the pipe, and then I made this template. So I got this piece of cardboard, and once I'd made one of these pipes, and I was happy that it was right, and I'd made another one to match to it, I made this template which wraps round the pipe. So basically, and so I could get them all equal. So let me get that through there without damaging anything. You know, it's end up pipe that's cut here. Anyway, and here we go. So I'll do the same here, I'll take a picture. But this cardboard template, I just drew around the same thing, I just drew around it and then cut them out with a grinder and then just fettled it up. Well, actually, the last few I actually cut with the axe, so it was quicker and easier. But you can see the little nick in the back there. That's the angle, the original angle of the pipe. So I put that on, so these 2 points I knew exactly where they were going to sit against the angle on the pipe I cut. But that's the easiest way to actually make each pipe exactly the same. And then once I'd cut those out, I just joined them together and I tigged them. And I have been using stainless steel wire. I did try with this one to use mild steel wire on it, and I don't know why. It just blisters on me, and I don't know why. It really it's been bugging me. And I did some practice. I can fuse it, but I did a practice here. So fusion welding, not a problem. Start putting filler wire in and it starts blistering. You won't be able to see it, there's a right little blister popping up there. But if I'm pausing if I pause, that's it just blisters. And then try to get that blister out, you've got to clean it back and try and fill it in, but I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's just the material that's poor or it's me with a TIG, I don't know. I've tried every setting I can possibly think of, been online. But anyway, I've been using stainless steel wire, so it's all stainless steel tigged in, which is a bit awkward because you've got to get your penetration. If you get too much heat, it blisters on the back with the stainless steel wire really badly. So I've been having to clean that up a little bit in there, but they're not bad. They're not bad. And I just fettled them up. So that's that. So I've got, like I said, my 2 collectors, but I can't do any more with these until I start bringing the pipes down and I set these in position under the car, which will be something like that, I think. And that's it really for that. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the flanges for the Jag, so I can get this going, get them sat and putting them all in, and then I can start getting in the measurement. I do have a formula which I've got a book. I said I'd show you the book, and I'll probably put that in as well, and the formula. But there is actually online calculators to work out the runner lengths for your specific engine that you want to make exhaust pipes for. So just go online, like I say, they're free. Go on, you can put in all the specific parameters that which it requires, stroke, bore, camshaft durations. I think there's a few other bits and pieces. You throw that lot in, it crunches the numbers, and it'll give you an exact runner length for your cam setup and engine size. And that'll give you a really good statement, and also tell you the size or the valve diameters as well, the valve diameters, the exhaust valve diameter. That's in the equation as well. But you like to say it'll give you what you require to make your pipes, and then it's just a case of jigging it all to make sure that you get as close as you can to your pipe length. which is the most awkward thing. A lot of people throw this stuff, they just get the tubular pipes and just connect it all together, so you've got all different sorts of lengths of pipes, which if you're trying to build a balanced exhaust system, that's not balanced if you've got lots of different length pipes, because they're all working differently. And the idea is that you try and create a harmony within the engine, which your exhaust is trying to do for you, because an exhaust is not just about getting rid of gases. That's its primary purpose, but it's utilised for other things. Anyway, so there's a big science about that, and I'll show you the book. Anyway, so just quickly on the Land Rover, and then we'll wrap this one up, I think, because I think that's enough. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. So yeah, right. So in closing, the Land Rover. So I've been doing a little bit of work on this as well. So I've been repairing these front wheel arch things, which were on the heavily corroded where the bolts had come through. So there are a number of places which I've had to replace. Now I was going to buy some more, but I thought I'll fix them. So that's what I did. So the aluminium I put into this was from the side rails that I took off when it was the GS. So I've utilised that to put into this, because it's all the same alloy. And it is a higher grade of alloy. So I did that, then we fettled them up, and then I've just cleaned them up and painted them on the back, which you can see. So that's what I've been doing with the Land Rover. Nothing really much of anything else on it really. I've been spending time on the Jaguar exhaust, and the weather's been atrociously cold, so it's been hard work in here. So I've been doing some stuff at home on the CAD as well. Anyway, that's what what we've done, and like I say, the Jag now's back on with. So yeah, it's all good. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, those that are, and if you're enjoying it, please subscribe, you know, and comments. I'm always open for comments, even criticism, as long as it's constructive, you know, put me in the right place so I can try and make things better, and more interesting and more entertaining maybe. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, let's continue to try and get this stuff done, and hopefully one day we'll finish something and I can show it done. Especially the Jag running, like constantly being told, when you're going to get that Jag running, we'll get there, hopefully sooner than later with exhaust now I'm on with. So yeah, anyway, thanks very much, and you all take it steady, and I'll see you on the next posting, whether it be Land Rover or Jag. Probably might be a bit of both, but anyway, you take it steady.